Comics show a simple view on criminal justice. Bad guy commits a crime, good guy catches him, and sends him to prison. Since the 1930s, superhero comics have illustrated a sense of crime, justice, and order. If you're watching this video, I assume you too enjoy superhero media. Many of us have a slight fixation on superheroes and how they fight for justice. It's the good versus evil, right versus wrong. But what do we learn about justice from these heroes? Are we gaining a certain perspective from these mythologies? These questions will be the central topic of this video. Because I'm mainly a DC channel, I will be using Batman and Superman as an example. Before we examine the influence of superheroes today, we should take a look at their historical context. Both Batman and Superman were created in the 1930s. The entertainment industry at the time tried to offer some sort of escape of the Great Depression and its memories. Comics, however, offered an attractive form of escapism, especially when the Depression passed and the time of optimism came along, when Americans believed the worst was over and the best times were yet to come. Superman is a great example of the post-Depression hope. He showed up in the patriotic red and blue costume and a commitment to the truth, justice, and the American way. While Batman was quite the opposite and showed a more realistic time. He was born through a violent trauma and wore a dark costume with the goal of striking fear into criminals. It showed how crime would change post-Depression to more street-level crime, which would require more retributive justice. Batman and Superman show both the idealism of justice and the realism of urban crime. Although both of them developed together with the cultural landscape, especially the American one, they're still loyal to their early adaptations. Both of them are rooted in the era in which they were born, the post-Depression America. The social structure of the world in which Batman and Superman live plays a big role in who they are as a superhero. Superman and Batman are confined to the world in which they exist, and their actions are a reaction to the world around them. I basically discussed this in my Why Is There So Much Crime in Gotham video. The role of law, order, and justice create the way in which these superheroes respond to crime. The Gotham City justice system is broken, and villains tend to be released or escape pretty quickly. This motivates Batman to use a more aggressive approach that's based on instilling fear. Gotham is a dark city with scary alleys, dangerous streets, and lots of corruption. Meanwhile, Metropolis is a colorful place with happy citizens. These two cities represent the dichotomous nature of America. At one point, it was offering hope, order, and the American dream, while also feeling a sense of despair and danger. Both Superman and Batman fight for justice. They want to protect the citizens of their home. And that too is different for both of them. In Metropolis, the justice system is an example of the good guys. Justice must prevail and it is to be respected. The justice workers, such as cops and lawyers, act in the best interest of the citizens. In Gotham, that's not the case. There isn't such a clear distinction between the good guys and the bad guys. Those who represent the law aren't always good because of the corruption. It's logical that Batman too will not always follow the law. Gotham is a state of conflict. Good and evil come from the same place. What's right or wrong isn't always agreed upon. In Metropolis, they do have cut and dry values and norms. We see these differences as well in the types of crime and the criminals. Superman is an alien. The enemies he fights in Metropolis are usually also from someplace else, such as Brainiac or General Zod. The danger comes from outside. In Gotham, it comes from within. Sure, both cities have your common criminals such as thugs and gangsters. However, in Metropolis, they are seen as outsiders who are disrupting the peace of the city. In Gotham, it's like those criminals are a product of the city. Batman's villains are either powerful people who are in control, or they're the crazies who were created through the darkness of the city. The villains want to watch the world burn. They are here purely to create disorder. Just like Batman himself, they are often driven by trauma and vengeance. In Metropolis, the outsiders usually threaten the American way. Because of a difference in social structure and crime, Batman and Superman go about crime fighting in different ways. Superman follows the values and the laws of his city. He even works together with law enforcement. Superman is motivated by justice and democracy. He is truly the embodiment of truth, justice, and the American way. As we established earlier, Batman doesn't always follow the law. He is wary of law enforcement and refuses to accept their boundaries as defining what is just and unjust. He is motivated by vengeance. When we're talking about crime and justice, we cannot ignore the criminological aspects of comics. According to criminologist Edwin Sutherland, criminology consists of the making of the law, breaking of the law, and the reaction to the breaking of the law. All three of these processes are portrayed in superhero comics. When it comes to the making of the law and how the law is represented, there is once again a difference between Batman and Superman. Superman sees the law as something that represents society's values, which are fundamental for social order and to protect the public. This relates to Emil Durkheim's collective consciousness. According to him, the collective consciousness refers to a set of common beliefs, values, and behaviors. They are the reason why different people can still come together and form a society. In contrast, there's criminologist William Chambliss, who argued that there is no such thing as a value consensus that is relevant to the law. He saw law more as a result of contradicting interests with some groups or individuals. Some of them have more power and influence over the law-making process. This could be because of an unequal distribution of wealth. This view on lawmaking fits more with Batman. Batman doesn't always follow the law, and he creates his own boundaries. He defies the law, and the fact that he is pretty rich proves as dual evidence of this perspective. He fights crime while refusing to accept the law as it is, indicating that there is no value consensus. In addition, he uses his wealth to create his own brand of justice and his own moral code. This supports Chambliss' proposition that those who control the resources have more influence over what does and does not become law. When it comes to the breaking of the law, comics present us with a wide variety of criminals and types of crime. There are gangsters, thugs, corrupt politicians, aliens, and so much more. They all represent a threat to social order. The big bads such as the Joker or Lex Luthor are motivated by destruction and world domination. Meanwhile, the run-of-the-mill criminals are motivated by things like financial gain. A lot of the time, we are presented with rational criminals with rational goals. Many bad guys have money as a goal, or they want to challenge the hero, gain revenge, or gain power. The bad guys also have origin stories. Just like the hero, they were often thrust into their roles by forces beyond their control. Just like heroes who form a group, villains do the same. Criminals use social networking to grow and learn. There's honor among thieves, forming alliances and reinforcing each other's criminal behavior. Sutherland would interpret this as an excess of definitions favorable to violation of the law over definitions unfavorable to violation of the law. When the good guys work together, they become superheroes. When villains work together, they become criminal. This principle of differential association basically means that people who become criminals do so not only because they come into contact with criminal patterns, but also because they're isolated from anti-criminal patterns. When it comes to the reaction to the breaking of the law, generally, superheroes believe that law and order must be maintained, and thus certain behaviors must be controlled. The mythos of superheroes derives from the more traditional American presumption that the purpose of the government is to maintain law and order, to police, and to regulate behavior. But what do superheroes represent as crime fighters? One interpretation is the idea of voluntary avocational policing by Karl Klockars. This is policing which is done by citizens, not because of some threat or punishment, but because they want to. It's like a neighborhood watch. According to Klockars, this is usually done by coercive force. We already established that both Superman and Batman fight crime for their own reasons, and they do tend to use aggression or coercive force as their main crime-fighting tactic. Even though heroes use violence, the superhero mythos still depicts a fancy world of perfect heroes, all while also depicting a world which reflects the main values of American society. This was not an accident. There is something called the Comics Code, which states that good shall always triumph over evil and that the criminal will be punished for his misdeeds. Crimes shall never be presented in such a way as to promote distrust in the forces of law and justice. All lurid, unsavory, gruesome illustrations shall be eliminated, and all situations dealing with the family unit should have as their ultimate goal the protection of the children and family life. I don't really agree that they always follow this code, especially with Batman comics, but I digress. The Comics Code Authority was fully aware of the impact that superhero media could have on those who were exposed to it. In both Superman and Batman comics, the main message is that crime doesn't pay. Even though Superman shows that he follows the law, while Batman tells us that the law is to be feared, they do share the same goal, which is stating, "Don't break the law." In general, comics tell us that we must preserve the status quo, and that threats to the status quo must be extinguished. In this world where there is a clear distinction between good and evil, good must prevail and social order must be maintained. If you want to know more about crime and why there is so much crime in Gotham, I suggest you watch this video next. Thank you so much for watching, bye!